In our previous lessons, we focused on several non-material aspects of culture like language, religion, or even the ideals and aspirations of a community, and learned how these can shape the culture of any region or any community. Now, you'll be surprised to know that even performing arts can also play a major role in giving the shape and structure to the culture of a region. Because performing arts are also very regional in nature. Different communities have their own sets of dance and music. And in fact, these dances and music are intricately rooted to the socio-cultural lives of those communities. But performing arts and dance, to be specific, over time evolve, and these dance forms often transcend the regional boundaries. In this lesson, we will focus on how dance forms can also give shape to the culture of a region, and to be very specific, we will be focusing on one particular dance form. So let us now begin this very adventurous exploration and find out more about how dance forms also play a major role in shaping regional cultures. Now, when we discuss Indian dance forms, these can be broadly categorized into two categories, and those two categories would include classical dance and folk dance. Now, these two types of dances, like the classical dances and the folk dances, are very different from each other. But the binding factor is that most of these are regional in nature. Now, here we will learn how several dance forms also transcend the regional nature. Firstly, let us talk about classical dances. Classical dances are prescribed in Natya Shastra, which is a Sanskrit treatise on different dance forms. Natya Shastra, along with prescribing several sets of rules that the classical dancers have to abide by while performing, it also puts emphasis and stress on attire, gestures and expressions. So from this, what we can understand is that classical dance forms are rooted in proper sets of rules and restrictions. On the other hand, we have folk dances. Now, folk dances are very regional in nature, in the sense that these are different kinds of expressions of the communities that these are rooted to. Now, there are several types of folk dances that mark and celebrate the onset of new seasons. In this regard, we can take the example of the Bihu folk dance in Assam, which marks and celebrates the onset of harvesting season. Now, folk dance also express different moods of the communities, be that happiness, anger, peace, sadness. So, in this way, folk dances are intrinsically rooted and associated with particular communities. Now, traditionally speaking, classical dances are often considered superior to folk dances simply by the virtue of being rooted in proper traditions. But it will be wrong to pass a judgment of this sort, because these two dances are of two different nature. Now, let us discuss at great length about these folk dances. So, as we learned that these folk dances are rooted in different communities, and these are exclusive to various communities, because each community will have its own set of celebratory performances which find expression through these folk dances. Now, what we need to understand in this regard is that these folk dances are free from any kind of restrictions or rules. Since these are of a more informal nature, these are more celebratory in spirit. Because these folk dances, as we just mentioned, are in order to celebrate or glorify the onset of any season, or in order to glorify and tell the history of a community, or in order to give expression to any event that is of significance to the community. So, can you understand how the region, the community, play a very important role in folk dances. Now let me give you certain examples of folk dances with which you will be able to relate and identify. Whenever we talk about the Punjabis, we invariably associate them with their folk dance, which is Bhangra. Similarly, when we talk about the Gujaratis, we say that they are very popular for their folk dance, which is Garba. So these are exclusive to the communities they are rooted in. On the other hand, let us now focus on what these classical dances are. The classical dances, as we mentioned, are rooted in Natya Shastra, which is a Sanskrit treatise on dance performances. Now these are very ruled and regulated by particular sets of instructions and regulations, because the performers of classical dances have to take care of all those rules and regulations. There are proper attire for the performance of different classical dances. The classical dancers also have to give attention to the footwork, the different hand movements, different kinds of limb movements and expressions and gestures. So this establishes the fact that classical dances are of a more formal nature. These are also celebratory in spirit, but these are more formal in nature. Now, different kinds of classical dances have been prevalent in the Indian subcontinent since ages. Different dance forms have came into being, they have evolved and assumed new shapes. As of now, the Ministry of Culture of the Government of India classifies 9 different classical dance forms in the country. And these classical dance forms are also associated with the state or the region in which they originated. So let us quickly make a list of those 9 classical dance forms that are still being performed in the country. We begin with Kathak, which originated at Uttar Pradesh. Then we come to Bharatnatyam, which originated at Tamil Nadu. Then there is Kathakali, which originated in Kerala. Then the 4th dance form is Odissi. It originated at Odisha. Then we come to Kuchipudi. It originated at Andhra Pradesh. The 6th dance form would be Manipuri, which originated at Manipur. The 7th in this list would be Satriya, which originated at Assam. And then we come to Mohiniyattam, which originated at Kerala. And last but not the least, we come to Chhau, which originated at Eastern India, and the states would be Bihar, Jharkhand and West Bengal to be specific. So these are the 9 classical dance forms that are still performed in the Indian subcontinent. With this in mind, let us now focus on one particular classical dance form and understand how this has transcended the regional frontier and moved beyond the space it originated at. From this, we will understand how it has shaped the culture of a huge area in the northern part of the subcontinent. So could you identify the classical dance form that we just saw? It is the Kathak dance form. And Kathak, as we discussed, originated in the present day Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. Now what does the word Kathak mean? This dance form owes the origin of its name to the Sanskrit word Katha, that means story. From this, the point that we need to remember is that Kathak will be invariably associated with story. We will come to this discussion in a while, but let us for now focus on the origin and the evolution of this classical dance form, that is Kathak. Now Kathak originated in the present day Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, as we have discussed all along. And this was then spread by travelling bards in the northern part of the Indian subcontinent who were known as the Kathakars. Now who were these Kathakars? These Kathakars were people who engaged in the act of storytelling. So these Kathakas were people who had something to do with stories. From this we can infer that the very foundation of this classical dance form called Kathak has something to do with stories. Now it is imperative on our part to find out what stories have to do in a dance form. But before proceeding with this lesson and learning more about Kathak, let me ask you a question. In which present day Indian state did the classical dance form Kathak originate? Did it originate in Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh or Andhra Pradesh? Well, the correct answer is Uttar Pradesh. Kathak's origin could be traced to the present day Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. So we talked about the travelling bards in the northern part of the Indian subcontinent who were known as the Kathakars. Now these Kathakars told religious and mythological tales through performances. So these ancient scripture tales that pertained to religion and mythology were told by the Kathakars through music and dance performances, and these music and dance performances mostly took place in village squares and temples. So this can be considered the point of origin or the fountainhead of the classical dance form, that is Kathak. Now initially through the 15th and the 16th centuries, this Kathak dance form was heavily inspired and influenced by the Bhakti movement. Now the Kathak dancers now performed the very famous Rasa Leela. So the legends of Radha Krishna were enacted through Rasa Leela, and Rasa Leela made a fusion of folk dance along with the gestures of the Kathak storytellers. Now the Kathak storytellers placed stress and importance on gestures, on expressions, because without expression no kind of performance art can happen. And in this Rasa Leela, folk dances were combined with the gestures and expressions of the Kathak storytellers. So initially we can understand that Kathak was very much rooted in religious and mythological traditions. So we can understand that the Kathak dance form was initially rooted in religious and mythological traditions owing to the influence of the Bhakti movement. Now whenever any kind of art, be that literature, be that dance, be that music, be that painting, emerged in any region of the subcontinent and made its way to the pan-regional empires and dynasties, those literary, dance, artistic forms were evolved and given new shapes. Now something similar also happened to the Kathak dance form when it made its way to the Mughal court. Now earlier on it was very religious in nature owing to the influence of the Bhakti tradition. But once it made its way into the Mughal court, it now became less religious. Instead, it became very sophisticated and became a very popular form of entertainment in the Mughal court. Now, under the extensive patronage extended by different Mughal rulers, Kathak now emerged as a very popular and prominent dance form in the northern part of the Indian subcontinent. So in this way, Kathak was now slowly spreading its influence, its popularity, its prominence to different regions in the northern part of the Indian subcontinent. Now, when different Mughal rulers started patronizing Kathak, more emphasis was placed on the precise footwork, the hand movements and the spin, the very elaborate costumes and attire. So here you can see how this no longer was restricted to the realm and context of religion. This is an elaborate Kathak performance, and this is a scene from a Mughal court. Note the elaborate costume and attire of these Kathak performers. And in fact, the hand movements, the facial expressions and gestures, the footwork, the attire, all this together gained more importance when Kathak became very popular form of entertainment in the Mughal court. Now, with Kathak gaining more importance and becoming more stylized in nature, new schools or new groups of Kathak came into being. Now, the schools or groups of Kathak were known as the Gharanas. Now, Gharanas are something that we can witness in the evolution of different classical forms of art in the subcontinent, be that music or dance. Likewise, Kathak also got evolved into two different Gharanas, which were the Jaipur Gharana that emerged and evolved in the courts of Rajasthan, and the Lucknow Gharana, which happened at Lucknow, as you can understand. Now, these also had their own distinctive stylistic features. Like the Jaipur Gharana placed more importance on the footwork of the dancers, while on the other hand, the Lucknow Gharana placed more importance on the gesture and expressions of the Kathak performers. Now, Kathak slowly kept on evolving and assuming new heights and dimension. Because as a classical dance form, it was no longer restricted and confined to just one place. It kept on evolving and developing, and in the process of evolution and development, different kinds of stylistic features were also incorporated into this classical dance form. Now, under Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, who was the last ruler of Awadh, Kathak now reached new heights of grandeur. Now, Wajid Ali Shah was a great patron of arts. He was very fond of dance performances, which is why he extended liberal patronage to different kinds of dance forms. And in this regard, he also extended huge patronage to Kathak. Now, when Kathak made its way to the court of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, it assumed new shape, it assumed new dimensions. It was given grandeur, fineness, aesthetic and artistic sophistication under Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. So, we can understand how Kathak evolved over the centuries. Initially, it began with a very religious spirit because of the influence of the Bhakti tradition. Now, this religious element was slowly removed when Kathak made its way to the Mughal court. It now became a popular kind of entertainment in a court itself. And when it reached the court of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, it was given further grandeur, it was given further sophistication. In this time, the hand expressions, the facial expressions and gestures, the footwork, the clothing and costume became even more elaborate and sophisticated. So, with time, Kathak moved beyond the frontier of the region it originated at. It is now imperative on our part to find out the places to which Kathak spread over time. So, we have learnt that Kathak originated at the present day Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. But over the centuries, it now spread its influence over different parts in the northern half of the Indian subcontinent, and those different parts would include the present day Indian states of Punjab, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar and the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So this made Kathak a very popular form of entertainment in the northern parts of the Indian subcontinent. And mind you, Kathak still continues to dominate as a major classical dance form in the northern part of the country. But Kathak did not always see and witness an era of glory. This is because during the colonial rule, the Britishers were not in great support and favor of this dance form. So Kathak now started meeting disapproval from the British officials. The British officials wanted to prevent this dance form from spreading its influence in the northern part of the Indian subcontinent, but such was the popularity, the prominence of Kathak that it never faded out of existence. In fact, Kathak now enjoys growing popularity in the country. And in fact, in the beginning of this lesson, we talked about how the Ministry of Culture of the Government of India now recognizes Kathak as one of the 9 classical dance forms. So instead of being swept out of existence, it came back stronger and more popular than ever in independent India. This now brings us to an end of our discussion on the making of regional cultures, and in this lesson we focused on how this was done through the medium of dance. Now, dance forms in India have been prevalent since long ago. Different kinds of dance forms originated in different parts of the subcontinent, be those folk in nature or classical in nature. Now, initially we talked about the difference between folk dances and classical dances, and subsequently we went on to focusing on one particular classical dance form, which was Kathak. This lesson helped us understand the origin of Kathak, how it originated at Uttar Pradesh and then transcended the regional barrier to become a very popular dance form in the northern part of the subcontinent, and it still continues to be a popular and dominant dance form in the northern part of the country. We also traced the evolution of this dance form from being religious in nature to becoming more stylized and popular in nature. Kathak now enjoys immense popularity in not just India but in different parts of the world. Kathak performers perform this dance form in different parts of the world, mind you. In our subsequent lesson, we will focus on another kind of static art that provides expression to the cultural landscape of a region. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million+ questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So register for free now.